In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a traceability report that shows the requirements, its associated test cases, and their latest outcomes. I'll begin by creating a new report service project. I'll add a new data source. I will choose the SQL Server Analysis Services driver and connect to my database that hosts the TFS Warehouse Cube. I'll add a new report and I'll create a new data set, and I will go against the current work item perspective. I'm going to get a list of the latest work items of type requirements and display details for those, so this is a perspective to go against. I'll start by filtering on the team project, and I'm going to choose one of the existing projects over here. Next, I will filter on the work item type, since I only want to see requirements data. Next, I'm going to drag and drop the current work item count measure. I can see I've got 22 requirements in this project. I'm going to drag in the requirement ID, the requirement title, and the requirement state. This is my data set, and I'm now going to build the visualization. I'm going to build a little table that shows the ID, title, and the state of each requirement. Apply a little bit of formatting. Save my project and click on the preview tab to see my report. The report is fairly straightforward. It shows me the ID, the title, and the state of the requirement, whether it's still active or it's closed. Next, I want to add another report that shows me the details of each requirement, all the test cases that are associated with the requirement, and the result of their latest runs. I'm going to add a new report, and in the new data set, I'm going to go against the test result perspective. I'm going to filter this report by work item ID, since I only want to retrieve data for a given requirement. So for debugging purposes, I'm going to set this to work item ID 35, since 35 work item ID 35 is actually a requirement. I'm going to parameterize this report. So this report will accept a work item ID parameter, and I'm going to show the details of the associated test and its latest outcome. So I can see for requirement with ID 35, there is one test case associated with it, and in its latest run it passed. I'm going to build a simple table layout. Get rid of the column. Do some simple formatting. And preview my report. This is a fairly simple report that shows the test case for the given work item ID and its outcome. Now I want to merge these two reports together. I want to show all the test cases for each requirement in line. So I'm going to start by grouping the requirement row, and I'm going to group by requirement IDs since I want the report to be grouped by requirements. And in the group row, I'm going to merge these two cells and use the sub-report control to embed the second report in this first report. I'm going to start setting by setting the sub-report properties, and I will select report 2 as the report to embed. And in the parameters tab, I'm going to pass the work item ID from the parent report, that is the requirement ID, to the second report. So what I have over here right now is our two reports. The first report that has all the requirements, and for each requirement it will have a sub-report that shows the details for the test case and test outcome details for each of those requirements. Now you would expect this to work, but you will notice an error on the first run of the report. So you'll see an error called the sub-report could not be shown. This is because the parent report is attempting to pass an integer ID as the field ID, as the parameter to the second report, which actually takes in an MDX expression as a parameter. So the MDX string expression and the integer value that are passed are causing a type clash, and so we'll need to add another parameter to the second report that will actually accept the integer parameter, and then we'll convert that integer parameter into an MDX expression. So if you see, this is the work item ID, work item parameter, which accepts an MDX expression. So we're going to add another parameter, let's call it my parameter, and convert it to the integer type. And for now, I'm going to set the default value to 35. This is what I'm going to use to debug and test my report. I'm also going to change the order so that it reflects the dependency between the parameters. And I'm going to go back into the same parameter list, and then first change the available values to non-queried, then set the default value of this parameter to, instead of an absolute MDX expression, I'm going to build this MDX expression on the fly using VB.NET expressions. So I'm going to build this string, and instead of 35, the hard-coded value, I'm actually going to accept the value from the newly introduced parameter. So over here I go in and I replace this with my parameter, and I'm going to cast it to a string. I'll test my report and make sure that it still works, and that for the passed parameter, passed requirement ID, the parameter, it still retrieves the right results. Now I'm going to go back to my first report and update the sub-report properties. I still want to show report 2, but now instead of passing the field ID or the requirement ID value to the work item parameter, I'm going to pass it to the custom parameter that I just added. Click that, save this guy, and then click on preview. Now you should see both reports rendering properly. So there you go. Here's a report that shows the requirement ID, title, and the state. And for each requirement, it shows the associated test case and the result of that test case. This is a report with almost no formatting. This could do with a lot of formatting work, but it adequately demonstrates the concept of integrating two reports using the sub-report control.